All right, let's get started. Listen, the theme of the month, the year, has of course been the hostages and the war going on down south. Um, Yesterday was, I assume and hope that everybody was absolutely blown away after Shabbat or whenever you first heard about having the hostages that were rescued. But our eyes are still on what's going on down south in Rafiach, in Sir Philadelphia. And therefore, what I'd like to do with you guys today is I'd like to do something that I think we at Yeshivat Eretz Tzvi, and certainly for those of you that were in my shiurim, know that we do all the time. And that is, what does halacha say to me where I am? What does halacha want from me in the complicated world that we live in? Okay? And we live in a world where we've got lots of different dilemmas, whether they're moral dilemmas, philosophical dilemmas. And we look to halacha, lehalechet, right? How do we go, right? The word halach is the source of halacha. So how do we know where to go? How do we know what to do? And one of my animamims has always been that the Torah has what to tell us everywhere we are and under all circumstances. All it requires of us is to learn. So what I'd like to do is to learn. I'm going to start by presenting a little bit of dilemma that's been going on in the news, which I imagine should be familiar to most of us. And then I'd like to try to tackle, what does the Torah have to say? How can the Torah enrich our conversation, enrich the way we think about things? And it would be great if it came to a really strong opinion or two. That would actually be really nice. So with that, let's get started. Currently, as I'm sure you can imagine, many of us know people that are currently down in Gaza, that are serving down there, that are part of all sorts of efforts and doing all sorts of wonderful things. And hopefully are staying safe at the same time. But I got to be honest, every once in a while, we got to start asking, wait a second, is it going the way it should be? Are we doing what we should do? And it's especially, challenging when the world around us is being extremely critical. Now, sometimes when we take criticism, we immediately deflect. But sometimes criticism should also get us to do some cheshbon nefesh, should get us to think, are we really doing the right thing? Are we really doing what God and the Torah wants of us? Because if the whole world is upset at us, and sometimes we're on days where we're major Kiddush Hashem, and other days we're in Chil Hashem mode, maybe there's something that we need to learn about what's going on. So what I'd like to do is to talk about the idea of a siege. Okay? Now, a siege is something that the Torah talks about all the time. A siege is part and parcel of warfare in the ancient world, and therefore the Torah has a lot to say about it. So, with that, let's start off by thinking about the siege. Okay. Can I ask who's here from Eretz? I'm getting questions on WhatsApp about if there a passcode to the Zoom. Anybody know the answer to that?
I didn't need a passcode.
Yeah, me neither. Okay. All right, we'll find out. Okay, so with that, let's talk about the siege. I mean, just for 2 seconds, what's the point of a siege? Why is it so important for us to block all exits and entrances down in Gaza right now? And I think anyone that's been watching the news, it's really important to Israel to make sure that things aren't being smuggled in. And in all honesty, that things aren't being smuggled out. And those could be weapons, those could be people on all different ways. It could be people escaping, it could be hostages being taken out, it could be weapons being smuggled in, it could be aid, humanitarian aid, and all sorts of other things coming in. And the goal of a siege is kind of to wear down your opponent. It's kind of to get them into a position where they're ready to either talk peace or to weaken themselves and lose in war. So if that's the goal of the siege, and the siege is a commonplace in the ancient world, and hey, even in the modern world, I can't imagine the Torah doesn't address the moral, ethical aspects of laying siege on another country during war. And that's where I'm coming in today. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to start off. I guess I'll go in order. Not that I like to do that, but if I was to ask you the most famous siege that is on the Jewish calendar, what would the siege be? Unfortunately, this time the siege was done on us. And according to one of these Guinness World Records, it was like this, I don't know, it was up there as within the top 10 worst sieges ever. and that is the siege, the time of destruction of the temple. And we have a fast day. It's called the Sar B'Tammuz. Okay, I'm in source number 1. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Chet Aleph, tells us Som HaAsiri, the fast day of the 10th month, right? Zeh Asar B'Tevet. What happened? Shebo Samach Melech Bavel Yishalayim. The king of Bavel, the Babylonian armies, surrounded Yerushalayim. And it makes it into the Navi, and God tells us, this is what's happening. Anyone that's not there, this is bad. Okay, and it turns out to be really, really bad estimates of the amount of death, and I'm sure the descriptions of the violence and the brutality of that death. We know how bad a siege is, and we made a fast day that we commemorate until today, based on the siege that happened to us a really long time ago. So it seems very clear to me that the Halakha, the Tanakh, the Torah are very much aware of a siege. Not only that, God instructs us on multiple occasions to siege another country. Okay, I'm jumping ahead right now to, it's not Parsha Shavua yet, but it will be in a little bit. We're at the end of the Parsha, we're at the end of the Sefer, Parsha Matot. By the Hashem Moshe Lemor, in source 2, by Midbar Chafei, Tzror et HaMidyanim, v'kitem otam. Surround, siege the Midyanim. They did some bad stuff to us, let's get them. Kitzorim Heimlanu, right? It's a play on words. We are going to surround them. Okay, I'm jumping ahead a couple prakim. Nikom nikmat b'nei Yisrael meit hamidyanim. Take vengeance on them. Vayitzbeu al Midyan. They sieged and surrounded Midyan, and then vayargu kozach. So, not only has siege happened to us, God commands us to siege. I wonder what type of command that was. Was it like, go do anything, everything? What type of siege was it? What was God expecting from us? Now, we have one other time where we have a couple other times where we were victims of siege, but there's another very famous story in Sefer Yoshua, right? The famous city that we sieged and then burnt, destroyed, and killed everyone inside of it. Yericho. Okay? I'm in Yoshua Parak Vav. Yericho sogeret musugeret mipnei b'nei Yisrael. And Yericho was surrounded, sieged by the Jewish people. Ein yotzei v'ein bo. There was no weapons, supplies coming in, and there were no people being smuggled out. Okay? Just for fun, I mean, Egypt is really upset and annoyed by this because they're losing major bucks on this. First of all, they're getting paid for smuggling things in the country. And according to most reports, they're getting $10,000 plus per head. People are smuggling out. So it's a big deal. Ein yotzei v'ein ba. Okay? And again, this is straight out of a command of God. So what does God want from us? How does a Jew siege? Do we siege in the same way that, I don't know, Hitler tried sieging Leningrad? Like, what should a siege look like in the eyes of a Jew, in the eyes of a Torah, in the eyes of God? And that's the question I'd like to deal with. So we're going to start in two ways. I'm going to look at two primary sources. We're going to look at the Psukim and Devarim, where we have in Parshat Shoftim and Kitetse the rules of war. And you wouldn't believe it, there are rules of siege. We're then going to move from there to the Midrash Halacha, where we're going to see two very different opinions as to how to understand those rules. Of course, a machloket in the Midrash will become a machloket between Rambam, Ramban, and Rav Sadigo. And if we have time, we will talk about one of the previous sieges, and that is the siege of Beirut, going back, I believe, to 1982, and a massive machloket between major chief rabbis of Rav Goren and Rav Shaul Yisraeli. Okay, so hopefully we'll get there in exactly 20 minutes. I wish all of us. Yeah, and with that, we're going to get started. Anyone that has anything they'd like to say, feel free, just jump on and ask a question or pose it in the chat. I will take a look. Yeah, we are in Dvarim Perek Chaf. We are at the end of Sefer Parshat Shoftim. Ki tikra tikarav el ha'ir lilachem aleh. You are getting close to the city. Okay, let's make it real. Yalla, we're about to go into Gaza. Okay, so what should we do? First thing, karat el shalom. Before you attack, call out for peace. Say, hey, give us back, everyone, and we won't go in. Okay? V'hayam shalom tancha. And if they answer you in peace, they say, yeah, we're scared to death. This is going to be long. Yalla, and they say, we open up, yalla, we'll be good. So they'll pay taxes. We will work out some sort of vassal state accommodation. We'll figure a way out that we can remain neighbors, and yet this won't ever happen again, and we'll know who's in charge. But pasuk Yud let's say they say absolutely not. In fact, we're going to keep firing rockets at you. They didn't just declare war, they kept at it. What should you do? Oh my God, it says it right there. Vetsarta aleha. You should make a siege. Is that a mitzvah? Meaning, it seems like a command. When you go to battle or when you need to go to battle, call out for peace. Again, shalom always comes first, right? It's in every davening. It ends off every davening we did, right? We just did this in Tefillah share. Think about it. Osa shalom b'marav at the end of Shmona Esrei, Birkat Hamazon, Kaddish. Every single thing we do ends with shalom. But if they don't want peace, says God, give it to them. Siege them and siege them good. Whoa. And if you do that, whoa, God will give them over into your hands. If I was Ben-Gvir now, I would say, you see, we didn't siege them properly, and therefore it's taken us so long to finish, because you're supposed to siege. We'll call that parish Ben-Gvir. And now please go destroy all male terrorists and get rid of them. Okay? Leave the men and the women, blah, blah, blah. Cain, I'm in pasuk Tetvav. Cain taseh lechol harim archokot mimenu mod. I mean, that sounds like the pasuk is saying, go do it, right? Go do it to all those that are far away. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go one more step. But the Torah doesn't stop there. It now also tells us, wait a second, there's a really important rule you should know. And we're gonna have to figure out how important or how much of a qualifier this is. Kitatsur al ir yamim rabim. What happens when you siege a city for many, many, many days? I think it's been like 8 months now. Lilachem aleh tafsa. Lo tashchit etza. No destroying fruit trees. Fascinating. Ibn Ez and the Ramban over here, they both jump on this. They're like, listen, it's great. Obviously, you need wood, right? First of all, you need firewood. You need to build rams, and you need to build walls. There's so much you need wood for. But use the regular trees. Don't use fruit trees. Because you know what? One day someone's going to have to live here. And fruit trees and trees are life. All right? The Torah will compare them to man. Don't waste them. This, by the way, is the source of Baal Tashchit. Apparently, even when you're in siege, which is a preparatory act for war, not all is fair in love and war. You need to be considerate to the ground, to the land, to the environment, to life itself. That's a pretty cool halacha. Wonder how that gets codified. And with that, we're going to move to the Midrash. Okay, so we're reading Psukim. We've asked some good questions. We've seen some different themes. Let's see how it gets codified. What I'd like to do is to show you there are two very, very different Midrashic approaches to this. Okay, the Midrash is in multiple places. We're talking Midrash Halacha. We're talking early Midrash, early Chazal. And I'm going to try to compare and contrast sources 6 to sources 7. The first is the Sifri. That's the Midrash Halacha to Dvarim. And it says, and it focuses on the word V'tsarta aleha. And you should siege it. Whoa. Look what it says. Af lahariva. Even to starve them to death. Af latzmiya. Cut off their water so they die of thirst. Af lahamita b'mitat tachluim. Even if they die of disease and lack of hygiene. Says the Midrash Halacha, that's called war. And God is telling you, you siege them hard until it's over. That is approach number 1 of the Midrash. A very strong, violent attack. When we have a mitzvah, milchemet mitzvah, the mitzvah says, take no prisoners. Win the war, because by winning the war, you are saving the next October 7th. You are saving the next 1,400 people. You are saving the next 600 soldiers. Win the war, win it fast, and then we can live in peace. That is what we'll call approach number 1 of the Sifri. Approach number two, though, is found in multiple places. I gave you two on the sheet. One is Midrash Tanaim, and the other is a Sifri in Bamidbar, as opposed to Sifri in Devar. Both sources quote the same Tana, the same Amora, Rabbi Natan. Sorry, I'm Tana. Now, my head is Amora. Rav Natan, some of you may know as the pseudo Gemara to Masechet Avot. He's Avot the Rabbi Natan, which means something tells me if you're writing a Perush / pseudo Gemara, again, it's later, it's part of the minor tractates, the Masechet Tanot, I have a feeling your moral ethical sensitivity might be a little stronger, and that might be part of what you're about to say. And what does he say? V'tzarta aleha. So the Tanakama of the Medrash says, V'tzarta aleha, what does it mean? Hekifu me'arba ruchot. A complete siege. That's what siege means. You cut them off on all sides so nothing can get in and nothing can get out. But comes along Rav Natan, and what does he say? Rav Natan Omer, Notnin lahem derech echad sheyivrechu. Oh my God. Rabbi Natan says, whoa, I didn't mean a complete absolute siege that's going to slowly harm and kill people. I mean you siege 3 sides only, always leaving an escape route. Because let's be honest, again, this is me speculating. Our goal isn't to kill everyone. The goal is to end the war and, in some cases, territorial expansion. So I don't need you dead. I just need you not here. And therefore, we always leave a way out. Rabbi Nathan says that also, by the way, in Bamidbar, that when we attacked in Sefer Bamidbar to Midian, leave them a way out. Again, we just need them out of the way. We just need them not on the front line as our enemies. We don't need them dead. And that is a really fascinating position. Because what he's saying is, in war, you don't just go for the kill. We need to think about life. And if our objective is Milchemet Mitzvah, well, if you can accomplish the mitzvah without killing everyone, but just by distancing yourself from the enemy, by the way, on the assumption that that works, right? I don't think they were thinking about 400 ballistic missiles being fired from Iran at the time. But if distance, right, will keep you safe, and if we still lived in a world where good fences made good neighbors, then perhaps you always leave a way out because the assumption is they run away, they won't come back. Okay, apparently from the right of return, we learned that's not true. Okay, anyhow, with that, I would like to take us, I'm going to skip Rav Sadigon, just for a matter of time. I'm going to read a Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchot Melachim goes ahead and codifies. I wonder how the Rambam is going to paskin. Do you think he's going to paskin like Rabbi Natan or not? Do you think he's going to say, go kill? What's he going to say? Anyhow, the Rambam says like this. First of all, I'm in Halacha Aleph, or in Parak Vav, Hilchot Melachim. Ein osim l'chamayim adam ba'olam ad shakern lo shalom. First of all, he codifies the opening pasuk of the parsha. First, you call for peace. That is always what we want to do. I don't care what type of battle this is. Even in Milchemet Mitzvah, you call to Hamas first. You say peace. Go ahead, kill all the men, kill all terrorists. And now I want to skip to Halacha Zayin because the Rambam formulates something in such a deliberate way. Ki she tsarin al ir letafsa. For all those that have learned with me, you know those are really meaningful prefixes. Ki she, when you siege. Question, what does that mean? Or I'll ask it in the way we asked it. According to Rambam, is it a mitzvah to siege? What does it mean, ki she, when you siege? So the different Mefarshim take different approaches. But for those of you who know me, you know my favorite approach. And that is that Rambam believes that there are mitzvot l'chadchila, and there are also mitzvot b'di'evet. There are mitzvot that you don't need to do ideally. But in the event that things go sour and you need to do this, this is the way to do it. And this is Rambam's famous explanation of the Kan Tzipor, right? You're not supposed to walk around and shoo birds out of nests and take the eggs. Okay, go to the store, pick them up. But if you're in the wild and you have you're in the mood for eggs and you don't have a store, so Get rid of the mother so she doesn't see it. By the way, that was a lot more popular before chickens and factory farms were around. When there's a bid'iyavad situation where you need an egg, well, take the egg in a way that harms the mother egg in the least. Okay, the same thing is true right now in yeshiva. We're learning kiddushin, which is a mitzvah, although it's a machlok between Rambam and the Rosh. But the mitzvah of gerushin is also a mitzvah. But for Rambam, not a mitzvah that we should be trying to do terribly often. And it's a mitzvah that in situations where, unfortunately, a family needs to end, there's a way to do it with closure, with certain halachot, with certain guidance, as opposed to, fight it out to the death. So, says Rambam, there's a mitzvah of siege? No. There's a way to siege, and there's a way not to siege. All it means when we say it's a mitzvah is God says religion is part of the siege. Do not divorce military from military ethics from religion. Baruch Hashem, our soldiers are on the field. They're asking questions. They're learning Torah. They're davening while all this stuff is happening, because we do not divorce war from religion. That's a very big animam in the world of ethics, and certainly the world of religious ethics in Judaism. When you siege, guess what, says Rambam? Don't surround them on all four sides. Oh my God, he paskins are being them. Elam shalosh ruchot, and let them run. Anyone who wants to run, let them escape. Okay? Whatever. The Rambam, by the way, also expands don't destroy water. Sorry, don't destroy trees to don't destroy water sources. We'll leave that aside for the moment. And the Ramban says, Rambam, you missed a mitzvah. What do you mean you missed a mitzvah? So the Rambam has hasagot to Rambam's 613 mitzvot. And mitzvah number 5 is the mitzvah the Rambam forgot. You know what the mitzvah is? The mitzvah is sieging a city. Rambam, it's a mitzvah. It's actually a mitzvah that you quoted, but Rambam, it's not a mitzvah b'diavad. It's a mitzvah l'chachila. The mitzvah is always leave a way out in war. Ki bazeh nilmod litnaheg bechemla. When Jews fight, we fight with chemla, compassion, pity, even with our enemies, ba'et hamilchama, during the time of war. That is a really, really powerful, and I got to be honest with you, a really scary Ramban, because that requires a lot out of us. And Baruch Hashem, I'd like to think that the state of Israel is doing its utmost to stand front and to be the most moral warriors and the most moral army in the world, doing things that when America invaded Iraq, they could not even have imagined doing. It's not to say that the optics are good sometimes, and it's not to say that mistakes don't happen. But says Ramban, there's a mitzvah in the Torah to show compassion to our enemy, even during war. I should also point out that there are many people that make a diuk in the last line of the Ramban. The mitzvah says this isn't just a temporary mitzvah of Sefer Bamidbar, but it's a mitzvah lidorot, which means till today. B'kol melchamot harashut. By all, not melchamet mitzvah. It's very possible the Ramban thinks that a melchamet mitzvah, which could be, again, conquering Eretz Yisrael or defensive battles, that this might not apply. And that's a really big deal, because what that would mean is that we are currently in a melchamet mitzvah, and it's possible that the Ramban would say in a melchamet mitzvah, a defensive war where somebody attacked you and killed you, maybe they don't deserve chemla. And that's going to make the world of a difference. Okay. Now, what we have here is two very different opinions in the Midrash, two very different opinions in the Mishnah. I just want to take us ahead to Beirut in 1982. If anyone would like to look into this even more, I highly, highly recommend Rav Tabori's State of Halacha. Has a really great chapter on this. I might be lying if I say I didn't just rip it off from there. And Rav Tabori describes that in the First Lebanon War, or Milchamat Shlomo Galil, after the PLO fired rockets from Lebanon and attacked us, whatever, attempted assassination of an ambassador in London, we invaded Lebanon, and for 2 months, we did a siege over West Beirut, over 500,000 people. Now, being that this was 1982, there was no internet, there were no phones and stuff like that, so it may have gotten less attention. We cut off electricity. We didn't let in food. And eventually, even though there were more than 5,000 casualties, they turned over all the PLO fighters to us. Story's over. Now, there was a massive public debate within Israel, and there was certainly massive debate around the world. And there was massive debate in a really wonderful religious newspaper called Hatzofet. And in there, Rav Goren and Rav Shaul Yisraeli battled it out. And I put sources 13 and 14 up on the screen. Rav Goren in Shuvot Meshiv Milchama, it's just in the other room. Just by the way, it was one of the first books, set of Svarim, ever written on halachot and morality of war. It is fantastic. I use it all the time. And as long as nobody tells my wife, they just reprinted it, a limited amount. Now it's in 3 volumes, came last week. Really, really, really highly recommend. Now he quotes our sugya, and he says, I gotta be honest with you. I'm sorry, guys. We, the rabbis, need to insist to Israel and to the world that we show compassion during war. And pen yetze chil Hashem chas v'shalom. A big chil Hashem is going to happen, which unfortunately we're seeing all over the world. They're going to say the Torah allows the killing of innocent people, lelo havchana, without us trying to distinguish. Rav Shaul Yisraeli, on the other hand, takes the exact opposite approach. And he does not understand. You're going to let terrorists go free? They're just going to come back. You're going to let the people that killed us get away? That's not called war. Milchemet mitzvah means you need to get rid of the enemy. And if the army thinks we need to do this, that is exactly our mandate from the Torah about how we need to act in Milchemet mitzvah. So I'm not here to solve any questions. I'm not here to give any advice to the army, certainly not. But we, in our own Jewish tradition, have 2 very strong traditions. It's important to me. My job isn't to paskin, either as anyone else for the Israeli army. They have their own paskin for that. But it's to think about, what do these 2 different values look like? How can we appreciate both of them, especially the one that you might not resonate well with you? What is the other opinion of Midrash really trying to say? And how can I really get grips and really understand their impact? One of the things, and I think with this I'll end, one of the things that I love about Yeshivat Eretz Tzvi, and I think all of us as Talmidim should be proud of, is that in the same way that we had 2 opposite opinions in the Midrash and in the Rishonim, we all know that in our yeshiva, we have 2 opposite opinions that battle it out every day, especially on these types of things. And that's the beauty of yeshiva. And we have some of our Rebbeim, and I don't have to name names, some of them wrote books that are much more militant. And we have some of our Rebbeim that on Yom Yerushalayim, when sometimes people feel it gets a little bit too much ruckus and sometimes it pushes people in the wrong way, was walking around parts of the shuk giving out flowers to all the Arab shopkeepers, was trying to show the Rahmanut side of the Torah. And I think, without asking anyone to take a position at the moment, that we need to keep both of these important, value-based, Jewish, ethical, Torah-based opinions in front of us at all times. And with that, I thank all of you for taking part of this wonderful learning initiative and being supporters, Talmidim, of Yeshivat Eretz Tzvi, and I will hand over to whoever is next.